right, we start our tour up here in New Hampshire by way of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. And you remember that story earlier this year when President Obama was attending a fundraiser at the MFA? This is the one where he ruined Rajon Rondo. Yeah, anyway, he was taking his group through there, and all of a sudden he stopped and made everybody else stop and look at this painting. It's called Passage of the Delaware by Thomas Sully. And the president was looking at it, he said, "Man, that's awesome." It is, by the way. But I wonder if as he was looking at it, the president realized there was actually a black man in that painting. I bet he did. And I wonder if the president knows that that black man is actually buried right here in Portsmouth. I bet he didn't know that. But here's how it came that Prince Whipple ended up in that painting. Prince Whipple's slave master was actually General William Whipple, one of Washington's right-hand men and a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Anyway, General Whipple made a deal with Prince, his slave, that if Prince served with him during the Revolution, he would give him his freedom after the war. And that's how they ended up down at the Delaware with General Washington. And General Whipple was good to his word, by the way. After the war, Prince Whipple became a free man and lived the rest of his days here in New Hampshire, and he's buried right here in Portsmouth. How about that, Mr. President? Now, speaking of presidents, do you remember what George Bush said earlier this year at the 10th anniversary of 9/11?
Dear Madam, I have been shown in the files of the War Department a statement of the Adjutant General of Massachusetts that you're the mother of 5 sons who have died gloriously on the field of battle.
Well, that letter that he read from is actually known as the Bixby letter, and this is the grave of one Lydia Bixby. Notice I said grave, not gravestone. Why? She doesn't have one. And why is that? Well, after Lincoln wrote that letter to her expressing sorrow for her having lost 5 sons in the Civil War, some people dug a little deeper and found out that she didn't lose 5 sons in the Civil War. She lost 2, maybe 3. People thought that she was actually a bit of a con man, pardon the expression, who was trying to grift government benefits, so she immediately became an outcast. Then upon digging deeper, people found out she was actually a Confederate sympathizer. And they hated the fact that the president, Lincoln, who saved the Union, actually wrote a letter of sympathy to a woman who believed in the Confederacy. As such, when Lydia Bixby died in 1874, no one wanted to foot the bill for a stone that they knew was going to be desecrated anyway, and thus she became marker 423 here in Mattapan. All right, speaking of Lincoln, there's a great grave here in the Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge with a direct tie to Abraham Lincoln. This would be the gravestone of one Edwin Booth. Yes, indeed, he's the brother of John Wilkes Booth. And this grave, or what lies underneath it, actually could end a conspiracy theory, which says that the body of John Wilkes Booth buried in Maryland is not actually the body of John Wilkes Booth. Well, the only way you could put that one to rest is to DNA test the bones buried there with the ones buried here, and if they're the same, then indeed they did get John Wilkes Booth. By the way, Edwin Booth, who was probably the most famous theater actor of his time, they actually built a statue to him on Broadway, had an interesting little connection to Lincoln. The year before John Wilkes Booth killed Abraham Lincoln, Edwin Booth actually saved the life of Abraham Lincoln's son. Yeah, it's a weird story, and for that and more interesting stories about Abraham Lincoln, pick up Bill O'Reilly's latest book, Lincoln. It's a bestseller, don't you know? Edwin Booth, incidentally, a huge star of the theater in the late 1800s. This guy here, William Jones, big star in the mid-1900s, only he wasn't a star as William Jones. He was a star as Billy DeWolf. Yeah, he was a big vaudeville star, appeared in a lot of movies, TV shows. None of that matters. For our purposes, why is this important? Because Billy DeWolf was the voice of Professor Hinkle in Frosty the Snowman.
Missy, Missy, Missy.
Yeah, Professor Hinkle buried right here in Quincy, Mass. By the way, how did he go from William Jones to Billy DeWolf, you ask? Well, his first job in show business as an usher at a theater right here in Quincy, and the manager of that theater once told him, "You're going nowhere with the name of William Jones." So what did he do? He took the manager's name, Billy DeWolf, and the rest is history. I'd like to tell you more about Billy DeWolf, including a vaudeville star who's single. Can't get into that right now. I got other graves to tell you about. Yeah, I'm busy, busy, busy.
Busy, busy, busy.
So I mentioned that Billy DeWolf was single. Little does he know, that may have actually saved his life. To wit, this is the gravestone of one Seth Miller, died in 1848. Although all men lead lives of quiet desperation, doesn't mean they're gonna lead deaths of quiet desperation. Seth wanted everyone to know what put him in this grave. Read along with me, won't you? My wife from me departed and robbed me like a knave, which caused me, broken-hearted, to descend into my grave. My children took an active part, and to doom me did contrive, which stuck a dagger to my heart, which I could not survive. The sad story of Seth Miller. It does beg one question. Who exactly paid for the stone?